We got a few minutes here. So sometimes it feels like when you come into church, it's like going into a barbecue late, and you're kind of always trying to catch up on other people's stories, and there's conversations here, conversations there. You walk around and kind of chime in. This is not that way. This is a fresh story. This is for you guys. You don't have to catch up at all because we are right at the beginning here. We are in the season of Easter. We light our resurrection candle for the 50 days while we're in Easter, so we're in that time until Pentecost comes. So we've been talking a little bit about church, about our leadership series here, what it means to be a leader in our families and in our communities, in our jobs, and going through that. This is a continuation of that, but it's different in a sense because it's going to be talking about specifically talking about our leadership as parents today. What's coming up soon, that you might want to catch because it's never been done before, that I know of, is how to make decisions. I was talking to my daughter who just graduated college a few weeks ago, and she's trying to make the decisions. I says, well, what did they teach you in college? You know, we paid all this money for you to go to college. What did they teach you about making decisions? And there's dead air on the phone. And so whatever they're teaching, it's probably the old dog method of teaching that's been around since Ben Franklin. But we're going to teach you, if you want to come by, how to make decisions in the 21st century, which is really how to teach your kids how to make decisions so they can be prosperous and make the right decisions and not go on the wrong roads, because decision making is critical in the lives of children growing up. So what we've been talking about is how to be number one at being number two, and that's putting Christ in our lives. And how do we get good at that? How are we number one at being number two, putting Jesus first in our lives? And so we've been talking about leadership principles. If you Google leadership or leader on any of the websites, you'll probably come up with at least 948 million hits of people trying to gather information for leadership. It is the hot topic of our time, how to be a leader and what that means. And there's books out. You can go to the library and pick up tons and tons of leadership books. There's leadership books and principles and all that kind of stuff. We've boiled everything down to about 5. And if you take all the leadership books and principles, put them all together, 85% of them are the same. So you don't have to keep going out and buying book after book after book, because 85% of all that stuff is being repeated. But we're boiling it down to the top 5 things in leadership principles. So we talked about the turning points in our lives. How do we use these principles to make our lives count for God? 5 points on a star, there's 5 leadership principles, and we've been looking at, for the first one, where are we? Where do we get going? Do we have a path, a goal in mind for our kids, our family, our work, our career, our lifestyle? And secondly, second point of the star is, well, how do we get there? Where are we going? How do we get there? And today we're going to cover a little bit about what do we do to get there? What do we do to get there? So we're looking at the future. Next exit, I'd like to have you come along. The geographical point for Christendom has shifted. It's shifted. It started out being in Jerusalem, where the Christian church was born, and then later on when Christianity became legalized and moved up into Turkey, Constantinople, and then eventually found its way into Rome, the Vatican. That became the center, the geographical center of the Christian world. And after the Reformation, it began to split throughout Europe, and then equally in all other parts. So one person said, well, let's just count the Christians and find out where the center is. Well, if you do that geographically, you find out the center. It's not in South America, it's not in South Korea, it's not in South Carolina, it's not in South Dakota, it's not even in South Texas. The geographical center of the Christian world is in Africa, in a little place called Mali. And it's this place that we've probably grown up hearing the phrase, I've lost something and I've looked all from here to Timbuktu. Well, it's exactly where the geographical center of the Christian world is. It's in Africa, it's in Timbuktu. There's as many Christians north as south of the equator and east and west. And so this is what Timbuktu is like. And it probably hasn't changed in hundreds and thousands of years. Kind of do the same thing they've been doing. It's a desert climate. They read the Quran because it's mostly a Muslim kind of nation. And that they have a university that they've had for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's one of the oldest universities around. People still cook their bread in the same old way that they've been doing since probably the beginning of time, and very colorful dress. And that's the University of Timbuktu. So if you ever want to, I don't know if they have online courses, but I guess you can go there and take some. So what we're talking about is DTR, define the relationship. I was talking to somebody recently who was texting, and they were doing the DTR thing, and I had to say, what is DTR? And it says, define the relationship. Is it casual, or is it a keeper? Is it casual? Is it a keeper? And that's kind of what we want to know in our lives, too. Are we having and making relationships in our lives that are keepers? Are we teaching our kids how to have keeper relationships with their friends and family and their community, especially with Christ? I had a pastor friend who talks about a family in his congregation, really nice family, and their daughter had literally run them around the block several times, doing from breaking curfews to staying out late to not coming home to not knowing where she is, to alcohol, drugs, not doing well in school. Finally, it got so bad they had to go to court to get an order to have her as an emancipated child. She was so bad, they couldn't even handle taking care of her and living with her. And as soon as that happened, she ran out and moved in with an older gentleman. Now that didn't start in 10th grade, didn't start in 8th grade, probably didn't start in 6th grade. That training, that behavior starts right where most of the kids are today. It starts where they're young. The Bible says to teach the child the way they will go and they will follow, to teach them. And so that's what we're in for right now. And if you can step back from parenting and think of yourself, even besides being a parent, as almost kind of a talent scout, as almost a talent manager. You have these talented, wonderful kids who have all kinds of potential, but if you don't lead them, if you don't set them up for opportunities, if you don't guide their path, it's not going to happen. And it drifts, and it starts to drift, and it keeps going until you finally realize, whoa, we better do something about this. And then it gets pretty hard towards the end. Pastor and I became very good friends in Columbus, Ohio. He's pretty much a straight, good parent, best he could be, until his child was 25 years old, locked himself in his room in his house, and kept doing drugs and wouldn't come out. And finally, he came to the point where he had to call the police on his own son, on his own child. That's part of parenting. But he waited a little bit too long for that aspect of it. But if we can start, we can make their lives wonderful and our lives less hectic. You've made it through the terrific 2s and the thrilling 3s and the fantastic 4s and the super fantastic 5s and the super 6s and the 7s and all that kind of stuff. You've made it through there. But you got the teens coming up. And you got to work it. You've got to lead them so they don't lead you. And Jesus says, define the relationship. If you love one another. If you love one another. The Jewish church, all they had to do was simply keep the commandments, show up, do the sacrifices at the temple, and that was it. But Jesus doesn't tell us that. He doesn't tell us by coming to church, by enrolling in these classes, by doing that, that's going to make you successful. But if you love one another, then they will know you're my disciples. Let's clarify that just a little bit. You may be a parent, a grandparent, and in tune with this kind of thing, this leading, guiding, you want to do it. In fact, leaders are learners. People that I know love to lead are learners, and they want to learn more because they want to have successful families, successful children. They want to have successful careers. Well, exceptional parents create independence and responsibility from the get-go. They start with that. They start right from the beginning, say, 3, 4, 5 years old, start creating events and circumstances in an environment where the kids will be responsible, self-reliant, and independent. It starts right from the beginning to do that. That is the goal. That's the strategy. That's point A to point Z. And you got to start there, because passive parents create disrespect and contempt. Why are my kids so rebellious? Why are my kids hating everything? Why are my kids just out of control? It's passive parenting. I know, I've been there. I've done it. I've learned from it. I know other people who've been there too. Because our beliefs determine how we feel. We think it's the other way around. If I feel like serving God, if I feel like going to church, if I feel like getting involved, if I feel like doing this and doing that, but it's the other way around. It's our beliefs determine how we feel. Got to get that correct, because we don't lose our tempers, we throw them away. Oh, you made me so mad, I just lost my temper, I just couldn't handle it. We don't lose our tempers, we throw them away. But you don't understand, so frustrating. You know, I say time and time again, get off the phone, do your homework, pick up your room, da-da-da-da-da. You're making me furious. We don't lose our tempers, we throw them away. Just because your child invites you to battle doesn't mean you have to show up and fight. And they learn quickly how to do that. They're experts at warfare and strategy. Kids know how to divide and conquer. They can do it, they learn it, and they're good at it. So by the time they're teens, they're masters at it. You don't have to show up to the fight. So what do we do quickly? As leaders, how to lead our kids. First, we give them a vision. And vision it's everything. It's your life. It's where you want them to go, what you see them doing, what you see their talents are. And you set them up to succeed. And you create opportunities for them to do that. You don't put them in places where they're going to fail. You set them up with opportunities where they're going to succeed. And you're there, and you create impact events. And you teach them consequences. If you do this, this is going to happen. And you let them do it. And sometimes you let them fail so they feel it. If you do this, it's going to feel like that. But if you do this, it's going to get you that. And communicating, constantly communicating, not just about homework. Do your homework done, fine, go to bed. And one pastor friend says, when his children were small, he used to go into the bedroom at night and turn the light on and see them sleeping. And he'd say, wow, I have some wonderful plans for you kids. I can't wait to see you grow up, because this is going to happen and this is going to happen. But then he realized during the night, there's a time where he could have separated them from fighting, and he didn't do it. There's a time where he could have taught them to turn the TV off so he could have read them a story, but he didn't do that. There's a time where he could have reminded them to clean up their room, and he didn't do that. And he realized he was just wishing at night. He wasn't training. He wasn't teaching them. Getting involved, communicating. And finally, this all boils down to engaging. We want our kids to engage in this world, engage in this life. Not just get by, not just do the basics, just the getting by stuff, but to really engage. Books and books, and people are talking about engaging all the time. How do we get people to engage at work? Because engaged people are the ones who are excelling. They're the exceptional students. They're exceptional businesses and companies, the ones who get their people to engage. Because when they're engaged, they're happy. And it makes it easier. They're engaged. And they're going to become independent because they are engaged, because you're giving them a voice. And the voice in their head is to be independent and think for themselves and develop self-respect. And that voice will carry them through. The greatest resource for exceptional parents is the church, because they're watching you. The kids watch you in church. They watch how you behave. They watch if you pray or not. They watch if you connect with God or not. You get a chance to model and show that. Jesus says, if you love one another, then people will know that we're connected. You're my disciples, that you have a vision, that you're part of this worldwide Christianity thing. Jesus taught his disciples early, and he said this parable. He says, There was a sower, and he went out and he scattered the seed. Some of it fell on the ground, and some of it grew, and some of it didn't. And we think about, wow, let's try to be the seed that went into good soil and all this kind of stuff. The point is the scattering. Jesus scattered the seed. It went everywhere. It's not in one place. It's here, it's there, it's all over. We're not huddled together, hiding. We're scattered. We're affecting the whole world as Christians. We're scattered people. We're not hiding in a temple. We're not hiding in a little club and in a little room. We're the scattered seed and making an impact everywhere. So when we're scattered, how will people know? How will the South Carolina Christians know about the Christians in South Africa and the Christians in South Korea? How will they know each other? Because if you love one another, we'll know. We'll know each other as brothers and sisters no matter where we are. And that's the joy. So you're invited to lead your kids and follow Christ. And in doing them, they will follow you following Christ. That's the opportunity. It's perfect time in their lives for you to start to lead them and continue if you already are. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.